We love the concept of monsters. Monsters are simple, digestible, and culturally comforting. We can project all of our collective anxieties and fears onto a deformed creature lurking in the dark, point a sword at it, label it evil, and go to sleep, feeling safe in our moral superiority. It is a clean, binary worldview. But Tolkien, a man who witnessed the absolute shattering of the human mind in the trenches of the First World War, did not write a simple monster when he created the character of Gollum. If you strip away the fantasy, the magic rings, and the mythic framework, what remains is something deeply uncomfortable. It is the most agonizing, clinically accurate, and deeply tragic portrait of terminal substance abuse, neurological decay, and severe psychological trauma ever put to paper. Gollum is not a villain to be defeated. He is a victim of a parasitic infection. Today, we are going to look past the glowing eyes and the riddles in the dark. We are going to examine the complete, devastating anatomy of an addict. Look at how the descent actually begins. It is crucial to remember that Sméagol does not seek out the ring finds him. When he murders his cousin Déagol by the riverbank on his birthday, audiences often misinterpret this as a sign of inherent, pre-existing evil or a dark, corrupted soul. But from a clinical perspective, this is the exact moment of the first hit. The ring is not just a piece of jewelry. It acts as a highly intelligent neurological parasite, a hyperstimulant that instantly and violently hijacks the brain's dopamine and reward centers. The murder of Déagol is not a calculated, premeditated crime. It is a violent, uncontrollable neurochemical crisis. From the exact microsecond his fingers close around that cold gold, Sméagol's free will is entirely eradicated. The ring behaves exactly like a terminal, aggressive disease, entirely rewriting his biological priorities. The natural, evolutionary instincts for food, water, shelter, and social connection are completely overwritten. They are replaced by a single, terrifying, absolute imperative: maintain physical proximity to the substance at all costs. Driven out by his own family, cursed by his grandmother, and despised by his community, Sméagol becomes a pariah. His body begins to change. The light of the sun, what he calls the yellow face, becomes physically agonizing, a severe sensory hypersensitivity that mirrors the acute withdrawal symptoms and physical deterioration of severe drug dependency. Unable to bear the light, he retreats deep into the pitch-black roots of the misty mountains. And here, in absolute, suffocating darkness, he survives alone for 500 years. The human or hobbit mind cannot endure absolute isolation and sensory deprivation for 5 centuries without completely collapsing. The brain requires external stimuli, social reflection, and reality testing to maintain a cohesive sense of self. To prevent the psyche from shattering entirely, to prevent the host organism from simply giving up and committing suicide in the dark, Sméagol's brain initiates a profound, desperate defense mechanism. It creates a friend. In the realm of clinical psychology, this is the exact foundational architecture of dissociative identity disorder, historically known as multiple personality disorder. The mind fractures to protect the host from unbearable, prolonged trauma. The personality we call Gollum is not a demon possessing him. He is a trauma-induced alter ego. Gollum is the addict. He is the violent, remorseless, paranoid protector whose only function is to secure the substance, hunt raw, blind fish, strangle goblins in the dark, and keep the physical body alive in an incredibly hostile environment. Meanwhile, Sméagol, the original core self, is buried deep within the subconscious. He is the frightened, innocent, and desperately lonely child who still remembers the feeling of wind, the taste of bread, and the desire to be loved. For 5 centuries, these two identities wage a relentless, exhausting war of cognitive dissonance inside a rotting mind. When we see him talking to himself, it is not simply madness. It is a frantic, internal negotiation for survival. If you find this kind of empathetic, uncompromising, clinical breakdown of fiction shifting your perspective, take a brief moment to subscribe. We deconstruct the psychology of the stories you love, looking for the human truth hidden beneath the myth. Then comes the most heartbreaking phase of his entire existence, the agonizing illusion of rehabilitation. When Sméagol is captured and encounters Frodo Baggins, something entirely unprecedented happens. Samwise Gamgee looks at Gollum with disgust, suspicion, and hostility, which perfectly mirrors how society at large typically views and treats terminal addicts. But Frodo does not look at him with disgust. Frodo does not tie him up with the elven rope that burns his skin. Most importantly, Frodo uses his real name. He calls him Sméagol. For the first time in half a millennium, someone treats him not as a wretched animal, but as a person with dignity. Frodo shows him radical empathy, primarily because Frodo is already infected with the same disease and recognizes the symptoms. This single act of empathy acts as a psychological defibrillator. It forcefully awakens the buried core self. We watch Sméagol actively fight back against his addiction. In one of the most powerful, agonizing internal monologues in literature, Sméagol actually banishes the Gollum alter ego. He screams for the addict personality to leave and never come back, declaring, "Sméagol is free." Audiences sometimes view this scene as slightly comedic or a magical turning point. It is neither. This is the brutal, terrifying reality of a terminal addict actively choosing to go clean. It is the raw vulnerability of rehabilitation. For a brief, beautiful window of time, Sméagol is recovering. He is helpful, he is fiercely loyal, and he is desperately trying to be good. He genuinely believes that if he serves the master of the precious, if he can just be useful and loved, he might finally be redeemed. He is walking the razor-thin edge of sobriety. But addiction is a merciless cycle, and the world is rarely forgiving to those trying to heal. The absolute turning point, the fatal death blow to his recovery, happens at the Forbidden Pool. Sméagol is hunting for fish, feeling safe, trusting his master. Suddenly, he is ambushed, tricked, beaten, and captured by Faramir's heavily armed soldiers. In the chaos, the pain, and the sheer terror of being dragged away by men with spears, he looks up at Frodo. And in his traumatized mind, he believes that Frodo, the only person he trusted, the man who called him by his name, has deliberately set a trap and betrayed him. This is the ultimate trauma trigger. Lying in the dirt, bruised and terrified, Sméagol realizes a devastating, crushing truth about the world. No matter how hard he tries to heal, no matter how much he attempts to be good, society will only ever see him as a monster. The system will always punish him. The psychological weight of this perceived betrayal is simply too much for the fragile, recovering core self to bear. Sméagol conceptually dies in that moment. The trauma completely shatters his attempt at recovery. To survive the immense heartbreak and the physical danger, the violent addict alter takes permanent, absolute control once again. This is the fatal relapse. When Gollum's voice returns in the darkness of the caves, plotting to lead them to the giant spider Shelob, the innocent Sméagol is gone forever. There is no coming back. The disease has won, and the empathy has entirely burned away, replaced by pure, vengeful malice. This systemic failure and relapse inevitably leads us to the cracks of Mount Doom. The narrative forces a collision between two individuals in the final, terminal stages of the exact same addiction. When Frodo's mind finally breaks at the precipice of the fire, when the trauma completely consumes him and he claims the ring for himself, it is Gollum who attacks him. Gollum violently bites off Frodo's finger to reclaim his precious. In the ensuing struggle, Gollum loses his balance and falls backward into the volcanic fire. But you must watch that final moment closely. As he falls into the roaring, blinding magma, Gollum is not screaming in terror. He is not thrashing, panicking, or trying to grab a ledge to save his own life. He holds the ring tightly to his chest, his eyes wide, his face completely consumed by an expression of pure, unadulterated, terrifying euphoria. He has achieved absolute union with the substance. This is the ultimate ego death. The addict no longer cares that his physical body is being incinerated, because the agonizing pain of existence, the 500 years of loneliness, the cold, and the withdrawal are finally over. He has his precious back, and nothing else in the universe matters. The tragedy of Gollum is a dark, uncompromising mirror. When Frodo Baggins looked at that wretched, crawling creature throughout their journey. He did not see a villain that needed to be struck down with a sword. Frodo saw the ghost of his own future. He saw the inevitable, terrifying destination of the burden he was carrying. Gollum carried the disease to its absolute, horrific conclusion so that we could understand its true nature. He was never the monster under the bed. He was just a lost soul, eaten alive from the inside out by a force he could not comprehend, who fell into the dark, fought a war in his own mind for 5 centuries, and could never, ever find his way back home.